40 years ago, May 1984, the FA Cup final at Wembley. Everton against Watford, Howard Kendall against Graham Taylor, and of course, Elton John. The Blues had finished 7th in the First Division table. The Hornets were 4 places and 5 points behind. Everton were looking to win the cup for the 4th time. Watford were appearing in their very first final. The travelling army of fans from Merseyside journeyed to the capital city full of confidence that their young side could end a 14-year wait for silverware. But that positivity hadn't been around for long. In the early 1980s, Everton just weren't delivering. Howard Kendall's magnificent 7 turned out to be, well, not quite so magnificent.
No, they weren't. But you know, I think he made up for it in the future, didn't he? But no, I mean, he brought 7 in. I think what he was, you know, it's like when you go to a new club, you want to make a stamp, don't you? And I don't think he realised maybe what was coming through. You know, like some me, Sharpie, there was Steve McMahon, Paul Lodge, Joe McBride, Brian Burrows that were there. And there was a few others behind them as well coming. You know, the likes of Gary Stevens and Kevin Richardson. And after that magnificent 7, if you think about it, bringing in Reedy, bringing in Derek Mountfield.
To be fair to the chairman, Mr. Philip Carter, Philip never budged, and his support of Howard. And they kind of thought, well, you know what happens when the chairman gives the manager his vote of confidence, that means he's on his way out the door. But Philip meant it, that he was going to keep him on. But we were well aware that we had to do something, otherwise the gaffer was in trouble.
There was banners, there was posters, there was leaflets, there was booing and jeering, there was cushions getting chucked from the stands. I think we still got one of the cushions in the house as well. You couldn't miss it. But you look now, if it had been nowadays, social media, he's got no chance because everyone's got an opinion. But the crowd were really not happy at the time. But we'd gone through a rough spell. I'd only been in the side for less than 10 games, I think. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is going to be... But good things always come out of bad things, and we had a good spell after that.
I think it was really frustrating because you could see what the lads were capable of doing on the training ground. Neville Southall turned out to be the best goalkeeper in the world. Reedy, Brace, brilliant midfield players, Trevor Stephen, Sharpie, Inchy, Andy Gray. We had the nucleus of a great team, and we were like performing in training, but we couldn't actually put it into practice on the pitch, and it did put Howard under a little bit of pressure. But I think because Howard was so good with the media, it wasn't like Sky Sports it is now. It was, and he sort of like looked after them, gave them stories. So when he was under pressure, they sort of eased off him a little bit and just bought him, which he deserved, that little bit of extra bit of time. And then obviously things started to fall into place, and players were then performing like in training on games, and we turned the corner big time.
The displeasure of the faithful in late 1983 was perhaps understandable. A 0-0 draw at Goodison with Coventry City on New Year's Eve was watched by just 13,659 spectators.
Howard Kendall is one man who will be glad to see the end of 1983. Everton's indifferent form recently has placed him under great pressure, but it's only fair to point out that last season under Kendall, Everton finished 7th, only just missing a place in Europe. At present, though, they're 7th from bottom. An angry reaction from the 13,500 faithful Everton fans, and Everton have got difficult times ahead. Everton 0, Coventry City 0, and sad to see a team like Everton struggling in this manner and receiving this kind of treatment from their own supporters.
It came just 4 days after a pitiful 3-0 defeat at Wolves, and it left Everton in 16th place in the First Division table. It was a young team, and as such, a lot of pressure was heaped upon the shoulders of Andy Gray and Peter Reid.
We were looking to them. I mean, you wouldn't notice it on the training pitch and things, but you're always looking attitude, professionalism, you know, never say die, that kind of thing. I think we had it anyway, but to see these seasoned pros, you know, playing so well, leading so well, it was key. Every dressing room you need that charge, and they certainly gave it to us, you know.
Oh, gee whiz. Their experience and everything, and helping you, getting through games as well, getting through the week, telling you what's going on and things like that. They were fantastic. Howard just was great at man management. He was just different class with the help of Andy and Reedy. So it was good stuff.
I think in bringing everything else out of the lads, you know, their personalities out, and seeing that, you know, what he was going through to play each game, because you know, he wasn't training that much. You know, his best mate with the fridge or the freezer just to get the ice out and put it on his knee. No, it was a big signing.
The mid-1980s won't be recalled by many of those who lived through them on Merseyside with too much affection. Unemployment and social disharmony meant that the football was more important than ever.
Well, it was, you know, it wasn't great with the government at the time and everything that was going on, and a lot of drugs and a lot of unemployment about. And as a young guy at the time, you know, I come to Liverpool and it was a big difference from Stoke, and I loved my time here. You know, just enjoyed the vibrance of the city. The music was taking off, and then obviously the team was taking off. So it was a good time to be a young football player, shall we say.
Football in general in Merseyside was crucial at the time. There was so much going on around the place with strikes and the era of all the troubles and things, that football was released for people. And yeah, I know people that used to go on a Saturday just for a fight. The football was irrelevant, but it was their release for all the tension around in the week. Football on a Saturday gave them something to go and look at and really try and enjoy.
As 1983 gave way to 1984, the first month of the new year presented Everton with a league fixture at Birmingham City, an FA Cup third round tie at Stoke City, and a League Cup quarter-final at Oxford United. Defeat in any one of them may well have cost Howard Kendall his job. A 2-0 win at Birmingham, with Andy King netting the opener, at least restored some confidence ahead of the FA Cup tie at Stoke. And what happened next has been entrenched in Everton folklore.
We played Blues, Birmingham City at St Andrews, and that was a big one for us. I think we won 2-0 at St Andrews, and then we went on to Stoke in that cup tie, the famous day that Howard opened the windows and your noise came pulling in. They just said, well, listen, I don't need to say it, guys. Are you going to let these people down?
Howard just opens a window and goes, listen to that noise, listen to those fans, you do it for them today. We did it, and the rest is history.
And those kind of 3 games for me, all in quick succession, I think flipped it for us, and we began to believe in ourselves. And that was the biggest thing, because we had a young side. Apart from Reedy and I, we were young and pretty inexperienced on everything. But those 3 games seemed to give the kids like Trevor and Sharpie and all these Sheeds, all these young boys, they seemed to give them a vote of confidence, a jolt of confidence into their bodies, and we started moving on from there. We never looked back really after that.
Now this is the story of an FA Cup campaign, but it would be wholly remiss not to make mention of an 81st minute League Cup goal at Oxford United. A goal that probably helped Everton ultimately win the FA Cup.
Well, it certainly helped keep the momentum going. You know, we're on a little bit of a run. Howard was under a bit of pressure. I know that's been well documented. And I don't think people realised how good they were. Jim Smith had a really good team. You know, Aldo and the 2 psychopaths at the back, you know, Shotton and Briggs. I've probably still got marks off the back of the replay at Goodison from Briggsy, where he double-footed me on the back of the neck and wondered why he got a yellow card. But yeah, it was an important goal, obviously, kept us in the tie. And then obviously we win the replay 4-1, and then, as you said, the momentum then started to build.
When you're getting beat there, and it was a tight ground, a man of ground, and it was very imposing, bit of a slant, but we dug in and we got it equalised with deserved, won the replay, and then it just roller coasted. These young players who'd showed so much potential on a training ground were doing it in front of people.
I think getting to Wembley was a massive bonus, and when we played the final, we more than matched Liverpool, and we realised that we can do this, we're as good as them. And I think that was one of the biggest turning points in belief and confidence in the boys, that we matched them on the day, and we should have won the game, really.
I think we were unlucky that day when we had the replay and we got beaten in the replay. And I think it helped us as well to be better players and pushed us to say, this is not going to happen again.
Back to the FA Cup then, and Everton made hard work, very hard work in fact, of seeing off Gillingham in the 4th round.
We did. I remember a good mate of mine, Tony Cascarino, last minute in the game down at Gillingham. For some reason, we had a corner and all our players had gone, and Cascarino was on his own on the halfway line. The ball got cleared and he was one-on-one with Nev with half a pitch, and he went round Nev, and luckily for us, he put the ball in the side netting. Otherwise, if that goes in, we don't win the FA Cup.
Shrewsbury Town were next up in round 5, but it was full steam ahead by now for Everton, and the second-tier Shrews were never likely to nudge them off track.
I actually scored with a free kick against, because I remember Steve Ogrizovic, who when I signed for Liverpool, he was the goalkeeper in the reserves. So I remember, and I used to practice my free kicks and penalties against him. So he knew where I was going to put it, but fortunately I was able to score.
The FA Cup quarter-final opponents were Notts County, and the Blues were really starting to dream of a Wembley double. And only Andy Gray could score a headed half-volley.
She'd flipped across in from left side, and I knew it was too far in front of me to stretch a leg, is what I was saying. And I'd always believed, that's why I always threw myself at things. If you throw yourself at something, diving header, your body's going to go forward further than a sliding leg would. And it was my right foot as well that had been coming on, so I wasn't that confident with that. So I think instinctively I thought, I'm going to dive and head this. And listen, it was as much luck as anything. I met it perfectly, just on half volley. And I think the keeper was beaten by surprise as much as anything else. But it was a big goal, and it was a very, very unusual goal, even for me.
Crazy enough, I've seen him do it in training loads of times, and we'd all start laughing, and you don't expect to see it in a game. But he was probably better with his head than he was with his feet, so he's probably got a better chance of scoring from there on his head.
Yeah, if anybody's going to get a half volley header, it's going to be him, isn't it? I mean, he's just. Yeah, I always think there's a sort of a thin line between bravery and stupidity, and I'm still not sure which one he is.
From the last day of March 1984 to the 17th of April, Everton and Southampton met 3 times, but only one really mattered.
Well, there's probably not a day doesn't go by where somebody doesn't mention it, or even in America now. I turn up in stadiums in Nashville or in New York or LA, there'll always be an Evertonian there. All right, Dad, ain't you, lad? And I was at Highbury, so we must have had about 300,000 there. If everybody's there who was there who told me they were there, but special day, meant so much to so many people. And I remember before the game really opening the windows at Highbury, because it's right on the street there, and just seemed blue and white for forever. And there's loads been said, but we weren't going to let anybody down that day. It meant too much to too many people.
Our supporters won us that game because we dug in that, but the support was unbelievable.
We didn't play well on the day, but the results are all important, and getting back to Wembley for the second time that season, the fans realised that something's going to happen here, I think.
Having lost the League Cup final, there was a fierce determination within the Everton camp that the FA Cup trophy would be coming back to Goodison for the first time since 1966. But for the 23-year-old captain Kevin Ratcliffe, that meant the headache of FA Cup final tickets.
Obviously, the bigger the game, there's more demands for tickets, people that you've not seen for ages, family that you've not seen. Getting to Wembley, that is the biggest pain as a footballer, is sorting out them tickets, especially in them days. These days, you must probably go and buy a bundle, wouldn't you? I remember going to Wembley, first cup final, and my dad had booked a 52-seater, and I turned to my dad and I said, "You got a 52-seater, Dad? Where are you going to get your tickets from?" He said, "You." Straight away, you don't need that.
You don't realise how many people actually know you who think are good friends, who even my mum was getting phone calls. "Can you tell Derek that it's Rob from school? He needs a ticket." I just looked at the people that I knew and trusted, and they were long-term friends, and they didn't want the tickets for 3 years. Lucky for them, they didn't have to queue for tickets and apply for tickets. They got them through me. But you don't realise how many people you've got friends who are for your friends until you get to a cup final.
In 1984, the FA Cup final was one of very few live football treats for the armchair supporters, and millions would sit in front of the box all day long. On Saturday, the 19th of May 1984, on BBC One, Maggie Philbin and Peter Powell presented the Saturday Picture Show. Bill Giles told us what the Wembley weather was likely to be. And then, at 11 o'clock, it started. Cup final grandstand with David Coleman.
As a kid growing up, I used to watch Football Focus on a Saturday, and it started at 9 o'clock in the morning with It's a Knockout and this, that and the other. It was part of football culture, the FA Cup, and I still personally think it's the best competition in world football. There's something about it, the FA Cup, that it's got the history. And within my first season at Everton, I'm walking out at Wembley in front of 100,000 people and lifting the FA Cup. 2 hours later, I started to pinch myself to believe it, but it happened.
It sounds unthinkable in the high-tech preparation, super-organised days of the 21st century, but back in 1984, the Everton FA Cup final squad was entertained before breakfast by comedian Freddie Starr performing on the hotel lawn outside their bedrooms on the morning of the biggest game of their lives.
It was a great way to start the day. I was with Bales. We shared the room that night, Bale, John and I. And Freddie was there on dressed as a 1900s footballer running about the garden with a football. It was a great way to start, and that's what cup finals were in those days. They were from like 8, 9 in the morning right through to the afternoon.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I didn't know if it was him or Andy Gray at the time, but you know, no, it was a good start to the day.
It happened in them days in the FA Cup. Nowadays you wouldn't get it, but Howard was really good at relaxing players. You know, big games at Goodison, I can remember him bringing a comedian in, and he introduced him as the worst comedian in the world. And he was that bad, he was funny.
Amazingly, for such a massive game, Howard Kendall picked a starting 11 that he had never ever selected before, and he would never select again.
Going down Wembley way in the final, we can't get beat, by the way. We cannot get beat, because I've seen kids like bowing down to grown men with in front of the bus, you know, giving it that cut, and I'm going, we got to win this.
And I'm sure we all felt like that. This is one we didn't want to miss, and I wouldn't say that we felt that we were guaranteed to win the game, but there was no negativity at all in our dressing room, and all of us in our own way, mentally, were tuned, and we get the result, which gave us that, you know, that inner belief that this group of players, if we're winners now, and you know, let's go. Where's this going to take us?
The team sheets were in, the brass band had cleared the pitch, the Duke of Kent was back in his seat, and so was Elton John. The 1984 FA Cup final was on.
You know, if Watford had got 2, we'd have got 3. If Watford had got 3, we'd have got 4. I think that's how much better we were than Watford, and we knew it. And it was, in all fairness, a pretty one-sided final. And it was only 2-0, but, you know, it could have been 3, 4, 5, could have been anything.
John Bailey was my man of the match on the day. I think we all had confidence we'd beat him, but John Barnes got through and done Neville. Bale's got the slightest of touches to send it past the post, and I think that was a defining moment.
Bale's a good player. Bale's his antics with his turning his shirt around the wrong way, you know, wearing his hat, masks what a good player he was. He's a really good player. You know, you look at Bales, like I said to you before, you can shout at Bales, and you know Bales takes it in.
Sharpie's instinct came in, you know, and that was a goal scorer's instinct. You see so many players in the modern day overthinking situations. They've got to get it right down and perfect. Because Sharpie's first touch was a good one, but not a perfect one. But then get it on target. Make sure you get it on target, and that was a settler for us. It really was a settler, because now we've got something not to defend, but to give us that impetus to go forward and win it.
They were a good side, you know, solid side. And Graham Taylor, as we all know, was a very pragmatic coach, very good coach, well organised. But I always thought we had too much for him, and we were going to win it. We were going to win it for the supporters.
I always tell the story about Andy, you know, maybe on the Thursday of that week, saying, I'm fed up hearing Watford players say it's going to be a great day out for the club, great day out for the family. And Andy's saying it's only going to be a great day out if we win. So let's put all that nonsense to one side and let's concentrate and just go in and win the game. Then we'll have a really good day. And we had a good few days after that.
It was their big day. Howard just said, look, he said to us, it's a big day for everybody, but they got a bit more. But we had that belief about ourselves. And Watford played well early on, you know. I think a couple of chances they had, but then once the first goal goes in, you know, it was a bit more belief about herself. And the second goal, rightly or wrongly, should have been disallowed. It would have been nowadays.
No, I never touched the keeper. They might look at it, but I honestly didn't touch him. And I don't think he ever had the ball fully under control. And I will stick by that story till my last breath.
Andy doesn't consider it an assist, Andy Gray. He terms it as a miserable cross that he made the best of, right? So I have argued the point with him. You know, I put it in there because I believed in you, Andy, to get up there, because you're brave, you're courageous, and you're a lot more courageous than Mr. Sherwood in the Watford goal. And anyway, the ball eventually, it comes in, and Andy was up there giving it his all as usual. And he never questioned that goal, did he? Do you know, you see his reaction on videotape now. He never even thought, never looked back. He got his head on that.
Sir Philip Carter had stood by his man, and Howard Kendall had delivered.
Yeah, he must have been a very proud man that day. You know, looking up and now he's looking down at us. But he's, you know, it must have been a magical time for him. And he was one of them, he didn't want any part of that. You know, on the bus tour, he didn't want to be at the front of the bus. He wanted the lads to enjoy the day. He just seemed to sat back and took it all in, savoured it.
It was the realisation of a dream.
It was really a sad day for me because in the Milk Cup final, I got tackled by Phil Neal. He ruptured my ankle ligament, so I was out for the season. So I missed the semi-final against Southampton and obviously the final. And I was in plaster, and I didn't want to go down to Wembley on crutches, whatever. So I watched the game at home, obviously wanting the lads to win, which we did, which was brilliant. And obviously it was then gave us the opportunity to qualify for the Cup Winners' Cup.
Actually, I took the cup back to my room, I think. Someone gave me the cup and I took it back to the room for a bit. Then we went down and had a do, and that was it really. It was all right. And then obviously we had the open top bus the next day, which is fantastic.
For Andy Gray, the celebrations turned into a family affair, with all his brothers alongside him, even the one whose wife had just given birth.
His wife Ange was very close to giving birth and did give birth the day before the cup final. On the Friday, it would have been, wasn't it? Friday. On the Friday, so his wife obviously said to him, well, of course, Duncan, you'll be at the hospital with me, won't you? And you won't be at the cup final, you won't be going that. And my brother went, sorry? This is a FA Cup final, babe. Baby's born, I'm very happy, see you on Sunday. Bye.
It was a glorious day in the sunshine for Everton Football Club. The FA Cup was coming back to Goodison Park, and even better days were just around the corner.
Yeah, but it's a great thing to do, to be walking up there and you knowing that you're going to be lifting the trophy that you've dreamt about.
Having the FA Cup on your table, right, with your family, you just can't make up those kind of situations. You have to pinch yourself. You know, it's a long, long time ago, but I can still remember it like it was yesterday.
I agree with everything Andy says.